Hey, CK here, and I'm back with another Automation Monday. This time we're going to be using Keyboard Maestro, the awesome Mac-only automation tool, to automate Logic Pro's bounce and replace all tracks command. But in addition to just choosing the command, I'm going to be making some tweaks to the dialog box that comes up with the different options available for that process. So let's take a look. All right, so here's my macro for getting this done. I know I've talked before about how I like to basically outline and organize my macros using the group action. I can show you what that looks like. It's this action right here, and you can populate it. You can throw other actions into it like so. So it becomes a container. It is a container. And a handy way to organize things and to document. So by simply renaming the group item, you can create an outline of how you think your macro should work, and then fill it in as you go. I find this super helpful. It's no different than, writing a term paper or something. All right, cool. So here we go. The very first thing I want to do, just as a matter of good housekeeping, I save the project before I go to create the new project alternative and bounce and replace all the tracks. Because, obviously I want to save the present state. What I'm going to do before I do the bounce and replace is create a new project alternative. If you're not familiar with Logic Pro, it has a fantastic feature called Project Alternative, which allows you to save multiple versions of a project within the same project file. So typical for me might be that I start or draft. And so I've got an alternative called start or draft. And then as I get to finalizing the composition, maybe I have a second one that I save as composition, sort of like, versioning in Google Docs or something like that. So as a safety, what I will do before replacing all of my tracks with audio versions of themselves, which is a destructive act, I'm going to save what I've got, create a new project alternative, and do the bounce and replace of all the tracks in that alternative. So I can always flip back to the version that has, for example, MIDI in it or unprocessed audio. So that is this step. We're going to create the new project alternative. So I've mentioned before that there's a weirdness in Logic where it doesn't always show its menu commands to Keyboard Maestro. As far as I know, this is specific to Logic. So all you have to do is just display the menu, and then you can choose the command. So you'll see this a couple times in this macro, where first I show the file menu and the project alternative submenu, and then I actually choose the command I want from the submenu. Normally, it would just be this action all in one. Most software would handle that just fine, but for some reason, Logic is kind of a prima donna about it. I don't know why. It's dumb. Okay, so then as a smart way to wait until that has done its thing, I wait until the front window of Logic Pro has the title Save as New Alternative. So it's like a save as specific to the project alternative feature. All right, so once that window comes up, I just have to paste what I want to name my new alternative. And I name it something super descriptive, which is all tracks bounced and replaced with audio, right? So that's that. I just pasted in the name field. And then this is one of those cases where there's nothing really smart for me to look for to understand that that is done doing its thing. And yet I have found the need for just a little bit of chill time to make this run correctly before I attempt to click the OK button and get out of that Save New Project Alternative dialog box. So here's that just tiny bit of a pause. and then exit the dialog by clicking the OK button. And then once again, another trying to be intelligent pause, which is just wait until Logic's front window is not the Save as New Alternative window. And that tells us that we have successfully exited that window. Okay, cool. So all we've done here is just in a very sane way, we've created a new project alternative in which we're going to do our bounce and replace. It can happen that you'll be asked to save changes if for some reason something changed in between our save here at the beginning and the point at which we've created a new alternative. It might ask us, hey, do you want to save? I just hit don't save because there shouldn't be anything that happens. But I use an if because it might or it might not. If it does, deal with it. Otherwise, don't worry about it. All right, so now we're finally going to issue our bounce and replace all tracks command. We are first going to wait until we're definitely back in the main window. That's this guy. I think it's actually the most common reason for an automation to fail is that the automation is running faster than the software it's trying to automate. So pauses like this are crucial to make things run smoothly. If you tried to just have do this, it might be hyper fast when it works, but there will be times that your Mac just doesn't keep up or the software just doesn't keep up and it's going to break. So the smartest thing to do is to put in these intelligent pauses that look for something definitive before moving on. That's one of these cases. All right, cool. Here we are again with our logic weirdness. It should be enough for me to just use this action, but I have to precede it in Logic's case with actually showing the menu. Please show me the menu and then choose this command from it. So I'm choosing File, Bounce, and Replace All Tracks. And then once I do that, a dialog box for Bounce and Replace is going to come up. And it has a button in it called Restore Defaults. So I can wait for that button to be enabled and then click it. So that's going to snap all the settings, obviously, to their default settings. And basically, I'm fine with them, but I don't want any normalization. So I'm going to turn normalization off. This dialog box, I know for a fact it doesn't resize. That means, from an automation standpoint, that I can count on all of the settings, the buttons, the checkboxes, and so forth, always being in the same place. And that's super handy, because it means I can just set mouse coordinates at which to click and drag to choose the menu item that I want to turn off normalization. So this action clicks the left mouse button at this location, X to the right and Y down, relative to the top left corner of that Replace All dialog box. And then it drags, it looks like, a tiny bit to the left was probably just my hand moving, and then 21 pixels up. And that chooses the normalization option that I want, which is to not do any at all. Then another smart pause, which is to wait until that left mouse button is no longer pressed. Cool. And then finally, there is an OK button that will become enabled when everything is good to go. I click that, and that exits me out of the Bounce and Replace All Tracks options box. Cool? And then finally, saving the resulting project alternative, and I'm done. So we pause until Logic Pro's front window has the title containing all tracks bounce and replace with audio tracks. And there's a menu option called Save that's enabled. Once these things are true, I hit save and I'm done. All right, so I know that seems probably like a lot, but I built it once and I use it all the time. There's something I learned back when I worked in software, which is that you should make the desired behavior the easiest possible behavior. And what I found was that I was pretty lazy about archiving my projects properly. And by setting up this, it's now kind of a walk in the park for me to properly archive my projects as multi-track audio. So I hope this has been helpful, and take it easy. Keyboard Maestro, man, if you use a Mac, you should be using Keyboard Maestro. Okay, cheers.